Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Peter.
Episode 178, recorded for the week of August 17th, 2022. What's in the Microsoft Dev Box? Good evening, Ryan and Jonathan. Did I do it in the right tone? I wasn't sure if it caught the 7 tone properly, but I'm trying.
Yeah. I think you did well.
Yeah. It was trying to get a little anguish into it. I'm not the best actor, as you guys have noticed. So.
No Brad Pitt, right?
Yeah. Oh, no Brad Pitt. That's why we're doing a podcast that has no video. How's your week, you guys? I was off in India, so I was a little busy. So we're recording a little late this week, but it seemed like it was a quiet week, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
How about for you guys?
It was.
Yeah,
super quiet. A little bit of a outage filled week, but which was not so fun, but recovered and handled nicely. So
did some training. Started to enjoy Kubernetes, which is slightly worrying.
Oh no!
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that's not gonna be good.
Gonna have to start looking for a new co-host.
Yeah, he's gonna go full Kubernetes.
Full Kubernetes.
Yeah. Just remember, you can't drink the full Kubernetes Kool-Aid. You had to be a little bit humble about it. All right. Well, let's get into some topics. I do have Kubernetes as a topic, so you can talk to us about all you've learned as later on. But first up, AWS 4th Annual Storage Day was streamed live on Twitch from AWS headquarters this week. There's a couple different things they talked about. I'll mention a few of them here, and then we'll talk about one of them a little bit more in depth later. But for EBS snapshots, you now have the ability to snapshot a single volume or all the volumes of an instance today. But now you can specify a disk set of an instance for a multi-volume set that can be limited. So if you have a server with 10 drives, but you only care about the data on 4 of them, you now don't have to set up 4 individual snapshot jobs. You can set up one snapshot set, multi-volume set, basically, to snapshot those. The announcement of the Amazon File Cache, which is an upcoming new service on AWS that accelerates and simplifies hybrid cloud workloads. Amazon File Cache provides a high-speed cache on AWS that makes it easier to process file data regardless of where it is stored. It'll serve as a temporary high-performance storage location for your data stored in on-premise file servers or in file systems or object storage in AWS. And this new service also provides a single unified view of dispersed data sets with sub-millisecond latency and up to hundreds of gigabytes a second of throughput. File Cache is designed to enable a wide variety of cloud bursting and hybrid workflows, ranging from media rendering and transcoding to electronic design automation to big data analytics. And finally, the 5 new storage learning badges have been made available. So you can now get badges on things like your blockhead, file or object storage, or data protection and disaster recovery and data migration, all as new badges you can earn in your quest for the badges.
I mean, you're a blockhead badge, like I'm all in. Like, I'm not even like super into block storage, but I want that badge real bad.
Yeah, I mean, it just says block, but I added the head part because I think it's funny. It was blockhead,
Mm-hmm.
The file cache thing is interesting, though. Depending on how that displays out, and again, it's not in beta yet, so you can't even check this out. But if it actually gives you a single endpoint that automatically maps to file storage or to object storage and a highest speed cache layer there, that's actually really interesting.
Yeah, like all of a sudden, so many workloads that I would consider EBS except for the performance or EFS, but like now maybe there's an option. Like, pretty sweet.
Or even have the ability to have data that lives in on-premise and lives in cloud that you don't even know the difference. It's available to you in this cache. And then that allows you to seamlessly move things as a migration happens, or perhaps you do want to have it on-premise because you have a better storage cost for that particular function. Like, there's all kinds of advantages this gets to you.
Yeah, and then think about the Amazon's own managed services needing to reach out to your objects to do analytics or something with. Now they can point their managed services through this cache at variety of different data sources. Provides a really nice abstraction. In fact, when we did the TCP Talks interview, who did we do that with?
Which company?
Trainer, Google Trainer, AWS Trainer.
Oh, wow! I'm forgetting his name at this moment as well, but it's on the tip of my tongue. He wears a cowboy hat and he works at Amazon now. Like, I have all. Yeah.
Bart.
Bart, yes,
Bart
Bart.
Castle.
That's it. Yes,
Bart. Yeah, he went into a lot of detail about the advantage Google has with the way they architect their storage, because it provides this single abstraction layer, regardless of where things are, for all the services to go and get it. You don't need to copy data out of cloud storage to somewhere else to do something with it. It all just works, magically.
Magic. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, so I'll be curious to see more about this file cache as they come out with it. I worry that it'll be outrageously expensive. As Microsoft,
as well it should be.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to be abused. Like I know I would just torch this. I know I would with bad architecture design. Like it would be fantastic, but it should cost me an arm and a leg to do that.
Yeah. Well, HTTP 3 support is coming for Amazon CloudFront. This, of course, is HTTP 3, which uses the QUIC, user datagram protocol-based stream, multiplex, and secure transport protocol that combines and improves upon the capabilities of existing transmission control protocols, or TCP. This can be enabled in all new and existing CloudFront distributions on all edge locations worldwide at no additional charge. HTTP/3 provides benefits to all CloudFront customers in the form of faster connection times, stream multiplexing, client-side connection migration, and fewer round trips in the handshake process to reduce errors. And this is all done because quick connections leverage UDP support, connection reuse with connection IDs, independent from IP address port tuples, so users have no interruption or impact. Customers operating in countries with low network connectivity will see improved performance from their applications due to the QUIC protocol.
I continue to be blown away by just the theory of HTTP3. I haven't used it myself, but I like the idea. I dread the day where I have to troubleshoot it, like at the packet capture level, because I it's just really hard with UDP. But enabling this like the edge at in your CDN is such a great enablement where you can add this to your application with very little effort by just changing your infrastructure. In most cases, your application doesn't need to support HTTP3 or make any changes there, and you automatically get it, and with the fallback to HTTP1 or 2. So pretty rad.
Yeah, I've had some mixed results to enabling HTTP2 on the load balancer. But yeah, it's never been hard to enable it on the CloudFront side. But on the depending on your web application and how it supports the HTTP2 protocol, and if you're doing streaming type of things, it can work or not work for you on the ALB. But CloudFront, it's always been simple. So yeah, that's a great way to get started. You get some immediate benefits, especially if you're doing static hosted apps. I think this is a great benefit to you. So I'll definitely be curious to see, if this is a big thing for people or if it's something that just doesn't get leveraged as much as we hope it will be. But I suspect it'll be everywhere soon enough.
Yeah.
Especially since it's free. It's such an easy enabler for free. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be quite noticeable, I would think. Pages that open many connections don't have to do so anymore because of the... oh, God, my brain's just not working today. Multiplex connections. Yeah, but I mean, I guess shaving an average of 35 milliseconds off a connection time for every single connection you make is going to be really quite noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, especially those lossy networks where packet loss is a problem and the consistency is just not there. Like it's going to be very impactful.
Well, if you have a need for fast, low latency network connectivity to your devices in your factory floor, Amazon's private 5G offering is now available. I think they announced this at reInvent, or at least rumored it to be coming. And but they now have it available to you to now launch for one radio antenna and up to 100 devices. The new service lets you design and deploy your own private mobile network in a matter of days, is easy to install, operate, and scale, and does not require any specialized expertise. The network, once created, can be used to communicate with sensors and actuators in your factory or provide better connectivity for handheld devices, scanners, and tablets for process automation. The private mobile network uses the CBRS spectrum. It supports 4G LTE today and will support 5G in the very near future. AWS Private 5G runs on AWS managed infrastructure. It is self-service and API driven and can scale with respect to geographic coverage, device count, and overall throughput. Pricing is for the radio unit itself, which is billed at $10 per hour, the 60-day minimum, which works out to right around $7,500 a month. A month. And then today it's limited to one radio unit that provides up to 150 megabits of throughput spread across 100 SIM devices. And they are working on adding support for multiple radios and a greater number of SIM cards per network. When you do sign up for this, you will sign up on the website. You'll get your order confirmed, and then you'll provide them shipping address information. And once it arrives, a certified installer will come and install it in your facility for you. And that'll all be available to you in U.S. regions only today, but I suspect will be extended out pretty quickly as they get more adoption and understanding of the service.
Yeah. And to answer the question, the elephant in the room, why don't people just use Wi-Fi for these devices? The more Wi-Fi devices you have, the worse contention gets and the slower the network gets, slower performance is. But with 4G LTE and with 5G, every device is assigned a time slice on a particular frequency, so you have a guaranteed quality of service as the number of devices increases.
That's awesome. I didn't know that, because I was thinking the exact same thing. Why would I take the time to make sure that I've got a 5G radio in all the devices when, IoT has made Wi-Fi sort of ubiquitous? But that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
All right, I've provided my value for the day.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm checking out.
Yeah, I'm checking out for the rest of the show. It's great. Well, AWS is also co-announcing the release of the Open Cyber Schema Framework. It just rolls off the tongue. OCSF project. In today's fast-changing security environment, security professionals must continuously monitor, detect, respond to, and mitigate new and existing security issues. And to do so, security teams must be able to analyze security-relevant telemetry and log data by using multiple tools, technologies, and vendors. This is complex, and the heterogeneous nature of the task drives up cost and makes slow down detection and response times. Our mission, AWS's mission is to innovate on behalf of their customers so they can move more quickly and analyze to protect their environment. With that goal in mind, along with several partner organizations, including Splunk as the co-sponsor, AWS is announcing the release of the Open Cyber Security Schema Framework, which includes an open specification for the normalization of security telemetry across a wide range of security products and services, as well as open source tools that support and accelerate the use of the OCSF schema. Like I mentioned, Splunk is the co-founder with AWS, but they also have support from Broadcom, Salesforce, Rapid7, Tanium, Cloudflare, Palo Alto, DTEX, CrowdStrike, IBM Security, JupyterOne, Zscaler, Sumo Logic, IronNet, SecureOnyx, and Trend Micro, which are all part of the partnership. Interesting, no Elastic on this partnership, huh? So weird.
Noticed that too.
It's going to be really nice to be able to have interoperability more easily between different tools. But the cynic in me sees that this pattern has been done before with AWS. First, they make it easy, and then all the partners change their schemas, change their data formats. Everyone's using the thing, and now AWS can come along and replace that service with a native service just as a drop-in, because all the data's in the right format now. So I think it's an enablement, but it eases migration later on.
That's true. Any kind of standardization does, but it's the flip side is getting this data massaged into the right format so that's actually usable is just very difficult. And since the changing world changes so fast, you're constantly on trying to scramble to keep up and write your Fluent bit agent or whatever Lambda function to parse these things. And so this is, if we can get some consistency, it's fantastic.
I mean, anytime we get consistency in logging, it'll drive down costs, right? Because, as the more schemas you have, the more money it costs you to host them and to index them. And yes, while there's that predatory side of like Amazon could just drop in a competitor, again, like it's only for the customers who have the bare minimum needs, because typically they don't have the full capabilities of a solution like CrowdStrike or Splunk or others. So, but it does give them that opening. But I think the amount of cost in multiple schemas is worth it for anything, even if you take this risk of Amazon swooping in and taking over. But it also opens the door down for Azure and for GCP to also do the same thing. So, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
The Amazon EKS and Amazon EKS distro now support Kubernetes version 1.23. Highlights of the Kubernetes 8 version 1.23 is graduation of several new capabilities, including pod security and the horizontal pod autoscaler. Now moving into beta phase is the ephemeral container feature. And there's some EKS-specific changes, including CSI migration feature for EBS on by default, as well as this is the last version that'll support the Docker shim natively. And so you will have to be moving to the new ways to do Docker in the next version of Kubernetes on EKS. So to keep that in mind, if you've been holding off on that move from Docker shim to the new launcher, this is now the time to do it before it's too late.
I mean, it's more often than not such a no-op. So to make that transition. So
yeah, I mean, the switch to container D was like one configuration line in my containers. It was so easy, like not a big deal. I'm sure there are some use cases where switch to container D will be a problem, but for most people, I think you're right. It's a non-issue.
Yeah, I just I haven't had anything where I was surprised. So but I mean, it's also, I'm not doing anything complicated by storing state or doing anything funky. So
yeah.
The ephemeral containers are kind of interesting. It's. I looked at the word and thought, what does that mean? Aren't containers designed to be ephemeral?
Yeah, I just popped it up because that was the first time I'd seen that too. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah. Well, I guess the more people are moving away from building containers that still contain things like package management and OS tools and things in distroless images, the more the need is to be able to have a sidecar in a pod so you can log in and use those tools to inspect running processes in containers that aren't working properly, debug tools. Yeah.
So for those who don't know what an ephemeral container is, can you guys describe it?
Yeah, you can. Usually pods are immutable, but ephemeral containers let you deploy a container into an existing pod just for the purposes of debugging.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if it shuts down, it doesn't get restarted. There's no guaranteed resources. It's a bit hacky, but yeah.
But it's way better than trying to like do a whole new deployment just so that you can get a diagnostic data out of your pod or something.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool feature.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, you can definitely see the value of that for sure. Well, then a final feature this week, Amazon Cognito enables native support for AWS WAF, which allows you to enable WAF in front of your Cognito user pool and hosted UI for common web exploits. Cognito provides built-in protection for securing your public-facing applications such as compromised credential check and adaptive authentication. But if you want additional protection, you can now add the WAF. WAF enables you to define rules that enforce rate limits, gain visibility into the web traffic to your apps, and allow or block traffic to Cognito user pools based on businesses or security requirements that optimizes your costs by controlling bot traffic. Which I appreciate that this is available because many, if your goal is to get security teams to leverage WAF and to leverage as part of their standard, you want it to be able to support multiple services. But then on the flip side of this, I feel like this is a managed service from Amazon I'm paying for. Shouldn't these things be built into the service and things that I don't have to worry about as much? And I get the parts that I embedded into my app, but that's where just normal WAF would have supported. So I'm not entirely sure what they're enabling here, other than it feels like something they should have already been doing for me. But I don't know. How do you guys feel about this one?
Exactly the same as you.
Perfect.
Yeah, I went through the same dance going, oh, this is kind of neat. And then I was like, well, wait, what? Why? Like, shouldn't this, I'm already probably enabling WAF to authenticated sessions. And I don't know why I would need a separate path. So like, this is kind of strange.
Well, I guess if you have WAF in front of your app, that's great. You can see everything that's, you can filter on events, pattern matching. Mm-hmm. But if somebody's sort of hammering Cognito, you're not going to see that unless it's a successful login. So, I mean, at least it gives you visibility into the fact that somebody's trying to log in as all your identities or something.
I guess if they're trying to log in as me, or like, that's the part I don't quite understand. As a managed service, like, I'm getting visibility into someone beating down the front door of Amazon. Like, but I think there's specifics here I'm lacking.
Yeah, I've not used Cognito. It's every time I look at it, I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah, everyone on the internet has not nice things to say about Cognito too. So everyone when someone comes into a forum, they're saying, "Hey, I'm having problems with Cognito." Like, the first people are like, "Just move to something else."
Yeah.
Like, we can try to help you, but like, you're most likely going to run into edge cases you're not happy with. It's sort of amazing how that product has just not gotten better since they launched it. Really, it's struggled.
Mm-hmm. It's definitely not keeping up with other identity providers.
Not at all. Which, sort of makes me think that they're pivoting, right? Because when you see a service on Amazon not getting features that people need, that's pretty core like that, and for this long not getting major features, it tells me that they're building something new. They're going to replace it.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, moving on to GCP, you can accelerate your developer productivity with a new query library. Google has launched a query library and new features to make it easier to query your logs in Cloud Logging. The new text and drop-down features of Cloud Logging are designed to make querying something that you can achieve with a few mouse clicks. These features automatically generate the logging query language necessary, which makes it super easy to get into your logs. But if you are trying to leverage standard GCP services, they've now given you the query library, which extends the simplicity I just described with templates for common GCP queries. Things like ALB access logs, etc., will now be able to, through a click of a button and in a standardized format provided by GCP, making it so you don't have to redo work for GCP services. And eventually, I assume that you'll be able to actually save your queries into a custom query library, but that is not there yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, every time if you take a user who's used to using Splunk and you move them to another platform, it's the first thing they're sort of asking for, because Splunk sort of does this natively in the product a little bit. And so it's a really nice feature for being able to very quickly, filter out information from the noise that you need when you're looking at your logging. And pretty cool. And I think on the back end too, from a Google perspective, like, it reduces the resources amazing amounts, right? With a more specific query that doesn't do query for this keyword on all fields type thing. So it's a good ad for both sides.
Jonathan's got nothing.
I got nothing.
Yeah, Jonathan's never thinking about logging ever again in his life, I think.
Yeah, he's like, I don't do logs.
Say the word, he just goes off to like a tropical island in his brain.
Go to my safe place.
Yeah. Well, this is managed logging, so you don't have to worry about it so much. But, that's a story that we're going to tell you at least.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move on to the next story then. Have you ever wanted to maybe turn off alerts when Ryan deploys software, or when Jonathan changes a load balancer? You now have the ability in Google Cloud to pause or snooze your alerts, which actually is a great name. Well done, Google. Pause versus snooze. I'll take snooze every day of the week.
Yeah.
With the new snooze feature, you can disable those alerts during those pesky maintenance windows, or for an environment during non-business hours. You can create a snooze by providing specific alert policies you like to snooze and a time period that the snooze will occur. During this window, if the alert policy is violated, no incidents or notifications will be created. When the window ends, the alerting behavior resumes as normal.
Cool. And I like that it's a snooze and not a pause, because a pause gets forgotten to be unpaused at the end of a long night of deployments, and a snooze comes back by itself. So that was a lot of forethought right there.
Yeah. I found it completely shocking that this didn't exist in AWS, that you only had enable, disable.
Yeah.
And when first moving over there. So this is a fantastic feature for Google monitoring. I love it.
Yes. Other reasons it's good is, if you're calculating SLAs based on metrics that you've collected, all of a sudden they now reflect really the reality of excluded maintenance periods. Mm-hmm. Instead of having to manually go back and say, yeah, but that outage there was actually an approved change or something. Have you been waiting months and months to hire your new AWS, GCP, or Azure architect, only to have them be poached at the 11th hour by a startup with a juice bar? Initiatives stalled because you're having trouble hiring? Well, I have a simple solution: Foghorn Consulting. Foghorn Consulting provides top-notch cloud engineers to the world's most innovative companies and can be burning down your DevOps and cloud backlogs as soon as next week. Foghorn certified AWS, GCP, and Azure professionals are armed with infrastructure as code, and from day one will be designing performant, optimized cloud-native or hybrid environments that deliver on the promise of cloud. Their FogOps solution even provides on-demand cloud engineering to augment your existing teams. Visit www.foghornconsulting.com or send an email to cloudtalentnow@foghornconsulting.com and tell them the CloudPod sent you. Your dedicated FogOps team is with you for the long haul, and they bring their own juice.
All right. And then Google Cloud Deploy is receiving several new features this week. Google Cloud Deploy, of course, leverages Scaffold, which is an open source tool that orchestrates continuous development, continuous integration, and continuous delivery, and it's directly integrated into Cloud Deploy. But now Google Cloud Deploy can generate a scaffold configuration for you for a single manifest application when one is not present. When you create a release with the new gcloud deploy releases create dash from Kubernetes manifest command, it will provide an application manifest and generates you a scaffold configuration that you can then edit and modify. Delivery pipeline, that's for Scaffold. Moving on to delivery pipelines, which are always in use. New releases navigate a progression sequence as they make their way out of the production target. The journey, however, is not always smooth. And now with the delivery pipeline suspension, you can now temporarily pause problematic delivery pipelines to restrict all releases and rollout activity. By pausing the activity, you can undertake an investigation to identify problems and the root cause. And if you're saying to yourself, but it's not my pipeline, it's the damn app, you can also have the new capability to release, through release abandonment, you can prohibit application releases that have a feature defect, outdated libraries, or other identified issues from being deployed further. Release abandonment ensures an undesired release won't be used again, while keeping it available for issue review and troubleshooting. And then the final feature of this is comparing application manifests can be tricky, but with the new release inspector, it makes it easy to review and compare a manifest against releases and targets within a delivery pipeline.
these are awesome because these are sort of hard things that a lot of people have sort of written their own custom code to manage. And either in their complex deployment jobs on Jenkins or something else. And so the ability to sort of plug in and have something pause a deployment if the error rate goes up by a percentage is an amazing feature if it's easy to enable, right? It can be very difficult to do in reality because, certain apps lack feature flagging and certain things can be really tricky with that. And then, the abandonment is kind of neat. I hadn't thought of that until reading this article, that there's not really, it's not typical that you can abandon a release in most of these tools. You just sort of deploy a new one over it as quickly as possible. So that's kind of a neat thing too, which I hadn't really thought of.
Yeah, I know that I read through this and I was like, we should be looking at cloud deploy more.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first takeaway.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you guys don't have anything else to say about that? We'll move right on to Azure.
Too soon for Jonathan, I think.
Yeah, too soon. Not enough coffee for Jonathan today. I see him I thought he was going to say something, but then he's well, Microsoft had announced to you all in December 2019 that they were coming out with a new region in Azure in 2019, but that is now officially available to you now in August of 2022. So well done. 2.5 years later. You now have a full region available to you in Qatar. The new region is available with availability zones, so giving you the best availability possible from Azure.
The cloud region wars are waging every day. I see a different article. Oracle's got the most data centers. No, it's Microsoft. No, it's somebody else.
Yeah.
It's all of them and none of them. They're all sort of smoke and mirrors too, because they're not all regions are created equal. So
yeah. And they're measuring in different metrics, like data centers versus availability zones versus regions versus it's are you counting the edge location as a thing? In some cases, yes, and it's just okay.
Yeah, but no one reads the details.
Mm-mm. Well, and the reality is, no one there's going to be someone in each of these cases that needs that specific use case in that specific region and needs that availability everywhere. But it's 9 times out of 10. There's something that you can use. Maybe it's a little bit of a compromise or not. So it doesn't matter which cloud provider you're using. You'll be fine.
Yep. And then this feature is kind of cool. Announcing the Microsoft DevBox now in preview. Microsoft announcing the preview of Microsoft DevBox to the public. Microsoft DevBox is a managed service that enables developers to create on-demand, high-performance, secure, ready-to-code, project-specific workstations in the cloud. With Microsoft DevBox, developers can focus on writing the code only they can write, instead of trying to get a working environment that can build and run the code. Dev boxes are ready to code and pre-configured by the team with all the tools and settings developers need for their projects and tasks. Developers can then create their own dev boxes whenever they need to switch between projects quickly, experiment in a POC, or kick off a full build in the background while they move on to the next task.
This seems like one of those things I'd like, but I mean, half the fun of starting a new project is installing a new version of Python or something that completely hoses my local laptop. And, I spend the next 3 or 4 days frantically trying to undo what I've done that breaks 6 other things.
I'm sorry, you said that was the fun part?
Yeah.
We got to work on your definition of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't get out much. So as long as this environment is, easy to use and isn't as cumbersome as some of the other, providing dev environments, like logging into it can be slow and it can be a little inflexible. But I think this is a great thing to add, just because, for some reason, I don't know, old dog, new tricks or something, I can't stop just breaking my local development environment. It's just a thing now.
This is how it's time to, you're up to pasture. Just give up.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of having, multiples of these, because there's been an idea of having dev workstations in the cloud for a long time, right? Mm-hmm. Like you could use Amazon Workspaces, or you could use, any of the other VDI type solutions out there, but they're always limited to one box. Where this is the ability, like, hey, I can have this one over here building a build, this one over here I could be working on this other project. I like the idea of being able to switch and multitask that way. Mm-hmm. I don't know if developers actually work in that pattern, but I appreciate the idea that it's available if I wanted to do it.
I mean, switching projects is definitely because you could be running, a version.
Or you're waiting for or you're waiting for QA to come back with
your
code works or doesn't work.
and like it's just if you're working on different applications, this version uses this version of Node, and this thing or this version of Node, and like there's definitely ways you can replicate that in your local environment, but I would say no two developers does it the same way, and this is just clearly a service that's built as an enabler to sort of remove that, so you can do it once, hopefully, and repeat.
I guess it makes license management for tools that you got to pay for pretty easy as well, because now the license can be built into the cost of the box.
I hadn't thought of
Whether
that.
it's Docker Desktop or Visual Studio or whatever, everything becomes as a service.
And that's the future. That's the way it sort of is. All right. Well, that is it for new news this week, you guys. I think we are ready to go to the lightning round, which is short this week, the lightning round. And I think, Jonathan, you're up first this week.
I am. Optimize resources across your organization using AWS Compute Optimizer. What a name. From a designated account.
I just designate myself as not the person doing this work because this sounds awful.
Yeah. So now, I have a central place to ignore all those things that I know I should be doing, but they're not in my feature roadmap. So go away.
Optimize means turn off, right?
It's code for turn off. Yeah.
Yeah. The Amazon Chime SDK announces Elastic Channels.
Which made me really angry when I first saw this, because I was like, why are they building Elasticsearch into Amazon Chime? And then I realized that that's not what it is. And then I tried to figure out what Elastic Channels were, and I couldn't figure that out either. And then I just cried because I was like, this makes no sense whatsoever.
You know how you can do different Zoom rooms?
Uh-huh.
And then combine those rooms, like you can separate out into rooms and then come back to a main thing.
Mm-hmm. So why wouldn't this just be called Amazon Chime SDK announces support for breakout rooms?
I want my 20 minutes back. 100%. Yeah.
I'm glad you read that article because I didn't pick that up. I tried to read it and I could not get it past the word elastic. I think my visceral reaction to all things elastic, like every time I see that word, my brain shuts off for like short circuits. Jonathan's problem earlier with logging again.
They're just using the word elastic to piss off Elastico.
Exactly. Amazon EBS adds the ability to take crash-consistent snapshots of a subset of EBS volumes attached to an Amazon EC2 instance, which I look forward to the future outage where someone goes, oh, crap, we didn't add that volume to the snapshots.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wait for somebody to add a new disk during an outage. Oh, we need more space, add a new disk. Didn't get added to the backup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, this is still good, but I mean, it's funny because I had to do a double take because I'm like, I'm pretty sure this existed, and it existed in the backup service where you could define a subset of volumes to be backed up through the service, but this is now native to EBS.
Yeah, I mean, you could always do it with, you're just writing more scripts. Like, hey, I'm going to write a script for each of the volumes I actually care about, or backup policy for each of them. And now you can just say, like, this is the server I care about. I only care about these 5 drives. And again, like it's a good practice, especially for like SQL servers or Oracle databases where you have multiple mount points, but not all of them matter. I think it's a great use of this technology.
Yeah. I mean, this will be really good for Windows workloads, right? Because you can.
Oh yeah.
Now instead of basically, I forget what you have to do in Windows, but I learned it one time and then quickly forgot it. Stop everything basically for a hot second so you can take your snapshot.
Queries to disks. That's the thing.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And so this is, I think this removes the need to do that. I hope.
No, you still need to do that because you still need to flush the data to disk. You should still coordinate with a local service to flush the data out. But I guess the difference now is that what I mean by crash consistent is that every disk in the set is snapshotted at the same point in time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Not
because otherwise, if you're QSing to a point and then you don't get a snapshot at the same time, that's a problem. But that's why, at least in the AWS backup, you had the ability to pre and post scripts of the backup, so you could actually call up that QS function or then resume a database call or whatever. So there was a ways to do it, I assume, with backup, and then it's all be integrated into AWS backup at some point in the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, and then we'll get that capability to do what you're talking about, which would be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be useful for things like if you're on Oracle on EC2 or something. If you use Oracle's native block storage instead of use the file system overlay, then something like this is essential, so you can back everything up in a consistent way. Also, don't use Oracle.
Yeah, I'm like, I guess that is a valid use case, which I didn't think of because I would never do that.
Just because you can Doesn't mean
All right. Well, there are some things coming up really quickly here. So in the next week or two, we have the VMworld, August 29th through September 1st. We'll see what they have to announce. I'm sure a lot of Tanzu announcements will be coming as usual. So we'll look forward to seeing their Tanzu strategy continuing to evolve.
It's just Kubernetes.
It's just Kubernetes.
Why are they still talking about it?
Because it's the future of their company. They can't survive without it. Join us for the new Show and Tell edition of Google Cloud Security Talks on August 31st. This is a new event that Google's doing to highlight all the things happening in their Google Cybersecurity Action Team and the Office of the CISO. And the Q3 installment on August 31st is a special Show and Tell edition, where apparently they're going to be telling us exciting things about zero trust, security operations, secure cloud, and more, including fraud and bot detection, managing compliant environments in Google Cloud, and much, much more. Check that out if you're interested.
You say show and tell. I want this to be like tell me how you fought off an attacker, or how they got in and how you found it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they might do that. You never know. The Microsoft Power Platform Conference is coming up 9/18 through 9/22 in Orlando. And then a new CSA conference is coming in September, September 26th through the 30th, called September, folks, in Bellevue, Washington, September 26th through the 30th. If you're interested in the CSA conference, that'll be available to you up there. And then Google Cloud Next in October, and Oracle Cloud World in October as well. October 11th through 13th for Cloud Next, and the following week is Cloud World with Oracle. So lots of news coming up in October in the cloud space as we head into reInvent season, and all the cloud providers try to one-up each other before Amazon shuts them all down in November. So I look forward to that. That's it for another fantastic week in the cloud. We'll talk to you guys next week.
See you later.
Bye, everybody.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts, and tweet us your feedback at #TheCloudPod. Or join our Slack channel. Go to our website, thecloudpod.net, for sign-up instructions. Well, Apple, you guys, has set a new deadline for corporate employees to return to the office 3 days a week. They had previously tried to do this in April, and then Omicron happened. So I suspect that we will have a new variant in September called Applecron, which will screw this up for them again, because every time you try to get ambitious and say we're going to bring people back to the office, you cause another variant to come through that'll screw us all. So. But apparently, starting September 5th, employees will need to work in person at least a few days a week, and that few days is 3 days per this article.
I just hope we have someone that listens that works at the CDC, so that Applecron becomes a thing.
Yeah, I don't think we do have anybody from the CDC, but
I doubt it.
Yeah,
but a boy could dream. Yeah.
It's interesting because we keep seeing like Google's, trying to ask people to come back to work. Apple's now forcing this 3-day thing. It feels like the wrong time to be doing this. But then again, a bunch of companies in the Bay, in particular, and across the United States, laying off in anticipation of a upcoming recession. And so maybe they feel like they have leverage over their employees to force them back into the office. It feels weird. It just. Like, what have you lost? Like, I do like the idea of the office for ideation. I know I'm going to the office more often. I'm telling my employees, hey, I'm going to be there Monday and Tuesday, and if they want to come, they can. But I'm making that choice to go, not because I need to go or I'm being told I have to go. Although I take that back. They did ask us to be at a meeting on Mondays, which is why I'm there. But again, I don't have to be at that meeting. It's still optional. But they've requested that we be there if we can. So,
yeah, I keep getting confused, feeling like there's a reason that I don't see for making, designating a time slot. Like there's something that you can only offer, benefit wise, or, by getting enough of a concentration of people on campus in the same day. Like maybe there's some sort of concern that if I saw the financials or something, maybe I would feel a little differently, but I just don't see why people are taking these policies and be like these 3 days or in the case of Google, like I think it's like it can be any 3 days, but it has to be 3. It's confusing. Like, why don't we just move to what works, right? And maybe that's different team by team, maybe it's different company by company. I feel like these overreaching sort of policies do a disservice to everything we've learned in the last two years.
But going back to that productivity chat we had a couple of weeks ago, the claim is that people are being less productive than they were before, although that seemingly was related to the economy as well. But maybe right. Maybe it is. You need a critical mass of people on site to make providing certain types of services feasible. The cafeteria is not going to open if there's only 5 people there.
Right.
Well, they also have to justify the fact that you're spending how much money in offices that are sitting empty doing nothing. I mean, like, that's a lot of cost that a lot of companies are incurring.
Yeah, but the policy to force it back to the office.
And they just built a really fancy ring.
Yeah. Is that the right way to address that problem? Or maybe closing down some campuses elsewhere in the world,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, like, Apple's still maintaining the original headquarters at, and then they have Apple Park. So yeah, they have a lot of office space sitting around in Cupertino that's just empty for the most part. So I get why they want to make that money more valuable to them, but it seems like it's going to cause people who don't want to come back to the office to find other work, and maybe it's harder at this moment to find other work. But long term, like, once you start commuting every day and you still now have to deal with traffic, and you're now dealing with that pain of that, it's going to change your opinion real quickly about working from home or not working from home. And I think, I don't mind it right now, but I could see if it got back to where it was pre-pandemic, where I might not like it as much going to the office.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of good reasons to go to an office. Like you said, like there's nothing that replaced a whiteboard during the pandemic, right? Everything that required or was made better by, in-person collaboration took a hit, and so, like, it was a lot harder to design an application and to, really collaborate and do things like pair programming in the same way. Mm-hmm. So there's reasons. And so it, like, I just feel like the forcing people back to a time is ignoring all those good reasons and makes it feel detached, right? It's this policy now, and it's not about being more productive or an enablement in any way. It's policy that you have to abide by.
Yeah, it would be nice to get an explanation, a bit of a justification, other than because we want you there because this was the way it used to be. But yeah, I missed the collaboration time, and I think the other thing I miss is it's just harder to get hold of people because now everything's scheduled in a calendar, and if I want to talk to somebody, I've got to book time, and the time booked is usually too much, or it's hard to get somebody when you want them. All I really want was a 5-minute chat. But it's hard to get somebody's attention and get that interaction, and so I can see why that may be a hit to productivity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, when I was in India, I happened to be there with a product leader, and this email came from our boss, and I was reading it, and there was an acronym, that's a very product acronym, and I was like, I don't know what this means, and he just happened to be sitting next to me. I'm like, hey, what does this mean? And he explained to me in like 30 seconds, and now I know what it is, and I don't have to ask anymore. But otherwise it would have been an email, and it would have been, so like there is advantage. Like I definitely don't doubt that there is something there. And I think part of the problem that Apple has is that they're built on secrecy. Mm-hmm. And so I think for them, the idea that they have prototypes now outside of their building they can't control, or physical devices that are, in different places, it causes them a pause of like, well, is it only a matter of time before we have some technician leave an iPhone on a table in a bar again and gets leaked, The Verge. And so that that secrecy that they have as part of their culture and their desire to keep things under wrap, do they feel like they've lost control of that by people working from home? And so that's where their pressure to come back into the office is coming from.
I was thinking about that, but then surely they'd just say 5 days a week, because if you have it home 1 day a week, you still have that that risk.
Well, maybe you say you don't need the device those 2 days of the week. Those are your 2 days to do meetings and to do other administrative work. And then, or again, it's a minimum 3 days. So maybe if you are in that department, you come in more often. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. But then, to the same thing, why does the team that's managing the retail network have to go into the office, right? Like, like why do this company-wide policy for something that's very specific to a hardware-based sort of control? Like, that should be a team decision, right? Like, and protecting that product release and the feature set of that new device, like, should be a team goal, and you get the team invested in, like, no, we do want to have the secrecy, and we want this to be, part of our big announcement in September, not leaked. So let's take that seriously, and we'll just agree to meet here as a team because that's the way to do that. And there's ways to do it where don't have to set this overarching policy that I just wish that more companies were willing to take.
Yeah. I think it's going to be an interesting next few years, right? Because again, in a recession, the power kind of moves back to the employer for trying to force these policies. But then I think productivity might actually decrease because, I know without having a commute, my employers gained my commute time as time that I'm willing to work. And so, if you assume that's productive time, which I think it is, then, you're losing out on that because now I'm in a car for an hour each way. And so that's lost time that I'm not willing to give them back. And so really, it is really curious to see if productivity is as badly hampered as they think it is. Again, I think ideation is what hurts the most. And I think I agree with you. The whiteboard, I've tried a bunch of different iPad apps during the pandemic, trying to be able to do whiteboarding and draw out things. And they're adequate. They're not great. I'm definitely not going to replace the ability to have a whiteboard. And so I like the idea of coming into an office to do ideation or have those quick conversations, and then go home and do the work and execute on what we talked about, and then we'll meet back up again at our next sprint planning meeting in 2 weeks, and we'll do the same thing, and we'll see how we got. I think that's the right balance of it. And or even ad hoc, like, hey, I need to do more whiteboard on this. Let's meet up and do that. I think that's what an office could really be advantaged for. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens over the next year or two. I think as work starts to continue back in the way it used to be in some areas, and other areas it stays remote. So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
All right.
Take care.
Bye.